So I think back to something Joe Budden said when he was with Slaughterhouse. Song is "Get Up." He said, "If you stay grounded, God to keep giving you reasons not to be." So, if you stay low, you do the work. God will bless you with reasons to maybe blow your head up, but again, you stay grounded. People will appreciate what you do.
Welcome again, everybody. This is Designated Report Behind the Lens, and we're into 2025. This is my second interview conversation of the year. I'm super, super excited. I was going to say for those who don't know, but I don't think anybody would know but you and I. We sat down and talked a couple years ago, and just life hit me. I wasn't able to get it edited and out. And you just hit me up and you're like, yo, a lot's changed since we had a conversation. So we ended up
Indeed.
scrapping it, but I'm glad we're able to get back and have this conversation. I'm with the super talented Lamar Carter. My friend, how are you? How have you been? What is new?
What's going on, brother? I'm doing all right. I'm glad, like you said, that we're able to touch base again, chop it up a little bit. Like you said, life's been lifing the
Yeah,
last few
yeah.
years. I think everybody could say that. Um, just glad to still be breathing, still be creating, and able to share a little bit with you and in the world, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we're just gonna jump. We're gonna dive into it. I know, again, we've had
Oh,
conversations, but um, I know that you're super accomplished on many planes. This is a sports photography podcast, but you do so much. Um, just incredible range. You do sports, you do portraits, you do concerts. I saw you did the presidential one of the rallies in 2024. Um, so I guess my first question is just what sparked your love for photography, and has your style evolved over time from the time that you started?
got you. Great question. Always actually like sharing this when it's asked. What sparked my love for photography was just not seeing myself in photos, ironically enough. No, like seriously, I remember just growing up, small family. Grew up with my grandmother on my mom's side, and I remember just looking at photo albums. And I guess by the time I was born, everyone was splintered away, and no one had the camera. So
Mm,
I wasn't in many photos, but other family members were. So I think that just knack of or that desire to, hey, I want to see myself in images kind of started and sparked that flame from me a little bit. I
yeah,
didn't really get into pro shooting like DSLRs and learning how to actually shoot into college, but I think from that young age through say high school, I would always have a point and shoot,
yeah,
little Casio, little Nikon, Sony, whatever the brand was at the time. In college, I was the one that was always snapping the pictures of all the
yes,
friends at the party. So,
yeah,
I still, have a lot of those photos to this day. So I'm the archivist of my circle of friends, of my family. So kind of with that spark in mind, my junior year at Rutgers, New Brunswick, I was like, hey, I want to start shooting for the school paper.
hmm,
Kind of just pulled up to the Daily Targum's office. I was like, hey, I would love to learn how to shoot. They kind of just threw me into the fire. I think my first assignment was over a break. It was a Rutgers UConn football game. They're like, go get the gear and just go.
that's
Like no
awesome.
one to like show me what to do. I'm just out here figuring it out. And I don't think I had shot with a DSLR at the time, but that just kind of got the juices flowing. And being at Rutgers at such a pivotal time in their history when Shannon was there for the first time, so they're winning like crazy
Yes,
for football.
yes,
Women's basketball makes it to national championship game against Candace Parker in Tennessee in 2007. So I get to shoot a lot of that stuff in probably the best time in the school's history in terms of athletics. And my passion always was women's sports. So seeing my friends on the records team excel and being able to shoot a lot of those moments, especially during that '07 run, was crazy. And then once I got out of school in '09, I didn't have my own gear for a few years, so kind of was still doing my thing with the point and shoot. I moved to DC around 2013.
Yeah.
Was working at Howard University, and that's kind of when my portrait eye started to come back. I got my own gear and just started shooting down there on the side, as well as honing my craft, working in the athletics department at Howard. Um, and it kind of just evolved, just shooting freelance on my own, and turned into, what is now Survivor by Design Media when
Yes.
I, formally got the LLC in 2019. So, marked my fifth anniversary last November of the business being formed, and I'm just trying to keep going and keep improving and doing more. And in terms of my style, I think I've always had the eye. I just didn't maybe have the equipment to get it out how I
Sure.
wanted to,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a lot of us do. But looking back at a lot of my older stuff, the composition was always kind of naturally there for me. Being able to get moments that evoke emotion and just look cool outside of just getting your kind of standard stuff, has always been there. I've just been able to refine it as I've gotten better technically, being able to, know what aperture, what ISO, what shutter speed to use, being able to use flash photography, which a lot of people struggle with. I kind of
Yes.
started with that and then had to be forced into learning natural light, which is
Yeah.
crazy. So I think it's the eye's always been there. I've just been fortunate enough to, get better through just honing my craft, a lot of hours at YouTube University, just getting out there, trying stuff. And I'm just grateful for where I am in terms of my skill set and what I've been able to do.
That's awesome. Um, yeah, early on, you mentioned that you're you have the archives, you have all the photos, through
Exactly.
college and the family, and I'm the exact same way. I was the one
Hmm.
who was always taking pictures and videos, and every once in a while, I'll pull something out, and they're like, where did you get this from? Where, and it's just like, I
Right.
think similarly, I think I'm very much in the same boat where I'm not even now, I'm not in a lot of pictures, and I'm cool with that
Hmm.
because I truly love just capturing moments, capturing whatever it is that's going on, the people that are there, like you said, the emotions. So that's awesome. We definitely share something there. Um a lot. You did a lot. 2009. You said you graduated Rutgers,
Hmm.
moved down to DC. Um is that when and I know in college that's kind of when you first started messing with the DSLRs and things like that.
Correct.
Um Prior to that, you're using the point and shoots. You end up graduating to the DSLRs. When you first got the camera in your hands, regardless of which one it was, what kind of spoke to you? Was it just, hey, I want to capture all these moments, or was it something more?
Good question. I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to what I want to do when I'm capturing stuff is, like I said, getting those moments and helping people remember when they were at their coolest.
Hmm.
I wasn't that cool of a kid growing up, but the biggest thing for me is just being able to capture people in their best light. Um,
I like that.
I just love that part of it. And you look back at some of these photos that I'm able to take. I'm sure you feel the same way about your stuff. And obviously, I know you're sports focused, so you get someone getting the dunk or football catching a pass, you
Yeah,
kind of get transformed back to that moment, and you're like,
absolutely.
wow, you know, I have a poor memory in general, but I can look at certain photos and remember exactly, what was going on at the time, the circumstances around it. I'm the same way with music,
Hmm.
which ironically enough was my first art form. I grew up making, beats and writing raps from like
You and
age
me
12
both.
on.
That's crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is wild, right? So like I've jumped from art form, from music to graphic design. I grew up in middle school drawing, but photography is, I think, the thing that has stuck with me the longest, and I tend to probably stick with until God comes and gets me, because it evokes so much emotion. And again, when I'm capturing those photos, I just want to be able to get memories that people get excited about. And just going back to something you said before, I know we talked early about just loss, and things that we all deal with as we're getting older. And getting in some of those photos, man, I'm telling you, even
Yes.
I'm not someone that really likes to get in them a lot, especially because I got to get back in the gym. But
You and me
just
both.
think, listen, just thinking of moments when I've had people pass away, and they're like, "Hey, do you have photos of so and so?" I can
Yes.
go into my Google Photos. I got it all sorted out and shoot it to them. Those are the last things that a lot of people have when it's too late. So I think that's important to me as well. Especially in the sports realm, we're capturing these athletes in the peak of their powers, when they're most fit. If we're shooting college, the best moments of their lives,
Mm.
through wins, through losses. Same thing with professionals. And when they look back on those things when they're 50, 60, 70, think about the emotions it's gonna evoke. Excuse me. Think about that. Think about the emotions it's gonna evoke when they're looking back on the shots we take, um, in those prime years of their lives. That's kind of the draw for me, in sports and portraits and concerts, like just freezing that moment that someone could look back to, and hopefully they have a positive memory about where they were at that time.
Absolutely. And I was going to mention this a little later on, but when we spoke a couple years ago, I did ask you something along the lines of like a life lesson that you've learned through photography. And it's
Mm-hmm.
actually the only clip that I posted from our interview in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember what your response was at the time?
I think it was just take the shot, or
Yes,
something to
yes,
that
yes,
effect.
yes. Always take the shot.
Yeah.
And ever since that conversation, it has stuck with me. A couple years ago, I ended up getting a photography or a camera themed tattoo, and
Mm.
above it, I have the acronym ATTS. Always take the shot.
Don't tell me that, bro.
I'll
That's
I'll s- I'll
crazy.
send you a picture afterwards.
Put that in the
Um,
B-roll, please.
Yes, always take the shot. And
I hate
it
it.
was pretty shortly after that. During that time, my buddy and I, designated report, we were covering the Danbury High School, or our old high school, Danbury High School, the baseball team,
Mhm.
and one of the seniors' moms, she was the one who like ran everything. If we needed, that she would set up like food after the games, and like that
Right,
type of
right.
thing. Just super nice
Yeah.
person. And I was honored enough. Her fiance at the time had hit me up, and he's like, "Hey, we're looking to take some photos. We're having just like a small backyard type wedding ceremony type of thing. Would you come
Okay.
take pictures?" Absolutely.
Nice.
So I get there, and her name was Tracy, and I get there and I'm like, that's not the lady that I remember, right? She had
Mhm.
lost a bunch of weight, and turns out she had cancer. Didn't
Wow.
know, she just the way that she moved through life, I would have never thought she was sick. And you know, part of the reason that they were expediting this celebration was because they didn't think she was going to make it. So
Wow.
taking all those photos and being able to have photos of her with her kids and her husband and all of her friends is, again, it just brings me back to the moment that you and I spoke. You're like, always take the shot. And you alluded to it a couple seconds ago, you when, family members or friends or whoever they pass, like those are the things that you have. And
Hmm.
I wanted to thank you all this time, but like I said, it's something that has stuck with me for the last couple of years. So legitimately, thank you for your words of wisdom and continued words as we move forward.
That's crazy, man. Listen, I want to thank you for sharing that with me, because I think as creatives, as people in general, sometimes we diminish the impact we think we have on people. I
Yes,
still have imposter syndrome to this day, thinking, sometimes people don't care about my work. But to hear that, like when I'm feeling low, that'll bring me back. So I appreciate that,
absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Um, so a hard transition. Um, but let's start with sports.
man.
I know you're still on your Instagram, on your social media. I see that you're still shooting women's sports. You alluded to it earlier. You love women's sports.
Yeah,
Um, what's your typical game day look like when you show up to the arena, um, to the time you leave? What are you doing? What's going through your head? How are you preparing for the game that you're going to shoot?
got you. I mean, I'll walk through, let's say, WNBA game. I'm usually credentialed through Beyond the W. Shout out to my friend Laureen Edwards, who runs that site and has kept me connected to the scene through her website for the
Yes,
last few years. But I typically get credentialed through the Liberty, so I'll get to as many games as I can throughout the season, see as many different teams as possible. So if one of our other writers, Akeem Ballum, wants to write a story on someone from a visiting squad, we'll have photos. So I'm
yes,
basically like Getty for the site. And in that space where we've tend to move away from day to day coverage and focus more on feature stuff, I don't necessarily have to be on deadline too crazy,
sure,
but get to the arena. I'm trying to get from Jersey to Barclays Center at least an hour, hour and a half before, just to relax, get some food, make sure I'm not rushed, get to my spot as early as possible so I can squeeze every little bit of room, because I have my laptop, two
mm,
batteries, I'm charging all my stuff.
yep,
But I think the biggest thing for me is just getting to wherever I am as early as possible, be able to think through who's playing, matchups, make sure your settings are right. Make sure you air blow your lens and
yeah,
your sensor, so there's no
yes,
dirt on 1,000 photos as you're editing them. And then just being able to read and react as things go. I'll give you one set of instances where things were a little bit more hectic, um, as life was life, and we'll say during
yes,
the summer it did open up a chance for me to actually cover all 5 games of the WNBA finals for
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Beyond the W. So that was an epic series. So first 2 games, kind of the same thing. We're in Brooklyn at Barclays. I'm getting whatever I need, sending it out. I'm able to do maybe some starring of photos in between quarters, just so my cold down afterwards is a little bit smoother. I'm sending stuff out after the game to like our Google Drive, or we file mail, we transfer whatever
yeah,
works, size wise, just so again, if something happened, Akeem has photos. If Lauren wants to post something on social, if I want to make a post on mine, we have it. So got through the first 2 games. Obviously, New York and Minnesota split, which meant 2 games confirmed in Minnesota, no matter what.
yep,
So I was able to get out there. Had a close friend of mine that was able to let me crash at their place. So, and they were really close to Target Center, so kind of all worked out. And then again, same thing, get there as early as possible. Um, and that's an arena I've never been in, so I want to be able to scope out where I can go, where I can't
yep,
go, what's the quickest way to get everywhere, where's my spot. And again, once I'm there, I'm comfortable, my settings are right. I'm getting stuff from pregame. I'm IDing what to do, what my workflow is going to be tech wise. Then it's just again read and react. So the game slows down for you, just like an athlete. And then game three, Sabrina hits that shot.
Yes.
I get that. I think I got it on video and some photos. Game four, we're prepping to go on the floor and get all that stuff. And then
Yep.
last minute, Minnesota pulls it out. So then it was like, all right, we're going right back to game five a couple of days later. So I think
Yeah.
I flew out that Saturday and then back to Barclays Sunday, just knowing this is it, no matter what. And all the reps of shooting their games, shooting college games, just being ready for whatever was going to go down, just kept me as calm as I could be in the craziest New York Liberty moment in
Absolutely. Yeah.
history. As a fan, I was dying inside. I'm like, what the heck is going on? This game goes to overtime. Like, it was so wild. But, looking back at the stuff that I was able to get from like post game and all that, I was really proud of the work that I was able to do across the 5 games. Um, Shout out to the media staffs for New York and Minnesota and for the league. They were very accommodating, making sure we knew where to go, what to do.
Yeah.
Working with us, and again, I'm always grateful when they still let a small legacy brand like Beyond the W still get in. Obviously, women's
Yes.
sports, WNBA is blowing up
Yes.
like crazy, and a lot of people are coming in. And listen, we're grateful to have any new fans that respect the game, respect the players, and don't go crazy. But as long as us little guys still have a seat at the table, as long as we're producing good work to warrant that
Yes.
spot, I'm just grateful for them letting us be there.
Yes. I agree with everything you just said. Just a couple of questions. So,
Mhm.
or two questions. So, um, when you're shooting these games, do you have? I know you refer to read and react, and I think that's what a lot of us do a lot of the time when we're out there.
Right.
But do you have an assignment ever? Is it like, hey, so and so Sabrina is X number of points away from a milestone. Like, make sure you capture that moment, or be on the lookout. Or hey, we don't have a lot of pictures of JJ. Like, can you make sure you grab a couple extra? Um, is there anything like that, or is it literally they send you out there? Hey, Lamar, we trust your eye. We know that you're gonna take care of business. That's my first question. And then secondly, you said when you were in Minnesota, you have video and photo of the big shot that Sabrina hit. Is that typical for you? Are you like a GoPro or something like a hot shoe type of thing, or is it one or the other? Like in the moment, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna try to capture this moment.
Got you. First question, in terms of assignments, I've had that more in the college stuff that I've done,
Mm,
especially when I worked as sports information director. Lastly, I was at NJIT, so that would be more maybe assignment specific. If something was going on, obviously I would know more in depth working with my boss there and my former colleagues and stuff. So that would kind of be, hey, we may need this here, this there. More
sure.
times than not, they would trust my eye, but also I would need to get stuff out quicker. So, I'm shooting first quarter, marking some photos. At the end of the first half, I'm going to the sideline. Um, I'm sending some stuff out to Google Drive. So our basketball contacts could have photos for their social media graphics or for the story
That
later
makes
on,
sense.
and then rinse and repeat for the second half. So when I was in the space of working in college, it would be more assignment specific, or if I get called out for a freelance position, for instance, I do a lot of work with Brooklyn College.
Mm,
Shout out to them, and my old JUCO boss Tim Slagus. He tends to bring me in to get some stuff from him. That might be super specific. If they haven't had a photographer come out for a lot of their stuff, they might
sure.
need a lot of their, certain seniors or certain freshmen that may not have stuff in the archives.
That
So
makes
then you'll
sense.
have to adjust a little bit to get them stuff that can last a while. And I'm an overshooter anyway, so I tend to just get as much as I can of the action, a few people here and there. So I try to cover as many bases as I can. For the second question, in terms of shooting photo and video, I'm just grateful for the Nikon Z cameras that have the switch. So I'm able to go from photo and video super quick just as I'm seeing stuff. Um, Being in Minnesota, going back to game 3 with Sabrina Ionescu's shot, I think on the shot I was following it in video because you figure, hey, social media engagement, we can, get a good clip out of it or whatnot. So I think in the moment I got the video, saw the shot, I think I stayed on her versus following it. Which again, you're choosing in the moment. I think I
Yeah.
would have been good either way, but I just stuck on her because I wanted to see her reaction. And I know she's very expressive
Yeah, and she's
when she
gonna
hits
give
the
you
shot.
something.
Exactly. So I stayed on her. I think I trailed her a little bit for the reaction and then maybe switched back when she got to the bench to get a little bit of the reaction with them. So, just having that ability with excuse me, having that ability with this camera to switch back and forth so seamlessly, it allows me and my ADHD brain to be able to go, hey, I want to get photo here. Hey, I want to go video
Yeah,
here, and be able to, figure it out on the fly. And it's one of those situations where when you're a solo shooter, you're gonna miss something. You
yeah.
get some photos here when maybe a video would have been better and vice versa. But as long as I'm going back and forth and I'm getting different moments here and there, it all tends to work out. I
Agreed.
think a lot of times when I'm shooting basketball, for instance, and I know I want to do both, I'll just I'll shoot photos the first time they come down the court until they make a basket, and then I'll flip to video, get some
Yeah,
stuff until something happens, and then vice versa. So that'll get me kind of into a flow of switching back and forth.
I like that.
Um, and I think switching out of sports quickly, I'm thinking back to a recent assignment I did for this one comedy show. Shout out to Stigmatism Comedy. Is a couple of dope black women running a comedy show out of a bookstore in New York.
Yeah.
So I shot some stuff for them last year. They asked me to come back and shoot their 1 year anniversary show earlier this month. And I was like, hey, you got us some photos? Do you know any videographers? I'm like, yeah, you're looking at them. Um, keep the money with me. But in that moment is a prime example of me just firing on all cylinders, shooting both. So, I think they had 5 comics plus the 2 hosts. Then they did a Q&A with the headliner because they always like feature a book too, and the headliner had wrote a book, so that was the
Oh,
book of
it's
the
dope.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, I'm getting photos of the first comic, then panning to the crowd, switch and to get some video of them doing something, maybe waiting for a laugh, maybe waiting for something, them reacting with their hands. Because in the way I know I'm putting together videos now, I may get maybe some voiceover from
Yes.
the audio system or me miking them up, and it'll play over them just kind of talking with the mic or whatever, and it doesn't necessarily need to sync up. So that's what kind of helps me. And then I'm just doing it for each person, putting it all together. And I think the reel that I gave them is going to come out pretty soon. Hopefully by the time this is up, it'll be up. But I was really proud of how that came up, like how it came out with my edit. And again, it's just me being able to do both. It's hectic.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
ain't
for
gonna lie,
sure.
it's not necessarily easy, but it's dope just to have a camera that can handle the capabilities to give you that option if you need it.
Yeah, yeah. Nikon, I know you're shooting Nikon mirrorless. What model are you using?
Right now, I'm with the Z6 III.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Um, so you mentioned this comedy show, and
Mm.
that's honestly the perfect segue because again, I mentioned earlier you seemingly shoot everything and shoot everything well. Does your mentality change based upon what you're doing? Or is the mentality the same and it's just a matter of tweaking it to whatever environment you're in?
Nope, lock in all the time. Lock in all the time. I try to. I think having a background in sports helps me be able to take care of anything else because you have to be so kind of razor focused in sports because it's fast moving bodies, quick action, fleeting moments. So I'm taking that mentality in that mode into most anything.
Mm,
Anytime when you really get a chance to redo stuff is portrait stuff. That's the easiest work,
yep.
because you
Yep.
can pose, you can reframe and whatnot. But I think I'd take the same type of thought process into all of it. You prepare as best you can. You make sure your gear is where it's at. You're packed up the day before. Even further, if you had time, you make sure you're technically sound. You have a plan. What apertures are you working with? What lenses are you working with? Do you have kind of an idea of what you want to do? Are you able to pivot once you get to the spot and see what you're working with?
Mm,
Because stuff changes. We all know that happens.
yep.
Um, but again, I think having that background in sports when so much is happening on the fly helps me to adjust in any situation that I'm in.
That definitely makes sense. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about this. Um, the Harris Waltz rally in Philly. I know you were down there, you took photos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was the process for that like? Because I would assume to get credentialed or approved or whatever was probably difficult because it's a presidential rally, and then just the environment. What was your experience documenting an event like that?
Got you. That's one of the excuse me. That's one of the most hectic but amazing assignments I ever had, and that
I
was just
believe
me
it.
wanting to go. Like I just went on a whim. I didn't have an outlet. I didn't get paid. I just went because I wanted to be in the space for that moment in history. So I had reached out, and I had done this with AOC in the past. Again, always take the shot. I just kind of reached out, researched their press email, send a message, or if they have an application, you fill out the application, and either you'll get on their media list, and when stuff happens, you just see if you could get a pass, or you get denied.
Mm,
Worst thing they could say is no,
yeah,
but the
yeah.
best thing they could say is yes. So I think once we knew that VP Harris was going to be running, I did my research. I think I found the press email, reached out, and then when I saw that the rally was going to be in Philly, once the whole VP stakes was happening, I was like, hey, that's a decent enough drive. I have a car now, so I'm able to be a little bit more mobile. Like I'll take that ride. That's easy. So when I got approved, I'm like, holy cow! Like it's time to get down there. But again, that rally, the announcement was probably made, let's say 6, 7 p.m. I don't remember specifically, but I know it was in the evening. Call time was 5 a.m.
Oh
that
wow,
same day. Yeah.
wow,
So I think I left the crib here in North Jersey, maybe 2 a.m.
jeez.
Drove the back roads, save on some tolls, but got down to Philly, I say around 4 a.m. And there's a bunch of people already there. TV crews, security, other photographers. Because you have to do what's called preset, where you get your spot, you get your angles, and then you got to dip. So security could do their sweeps and whatnot. So
Yeah.
5 a.m. is preset. I'm able to get a spot. They had like a really long um, like riser or whatnot straight ahead. And
Yeah.
I was able to get a spot kind of straight on. You just leave your sticks there. Hopefully no one moves them. You put tape down, mark it up or whatever. It has some other photographers there that were giving some guidance. So I think preset was from like 5 to 6. And then again, you got to dip. so they can, sweep the area. So, go get some food, knock out in the car for a little bit. I don't think we got back into the arena until maybe like 1, like
Wow.
1:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And then again, you're testing, you're floating around, you're kind of just waiting for stuff to happen. They had some other dignitaries come up, and then the start of the show. Excuse me. Then the star of the show, VP Harris and Governor Walz, they come out. You're getting all the shots of them, and it was such a crazy moment. Then I drove home. I think it was pouring out raining by the time I got back, so stopped and made sure I was driving safely. But it was close to a 24-hour day
Yeah.
for what the prime moments, the photos that you see, maybe a 30 to 45 minute window of just them.
Yep.
It's crazy when you think about the prep time for some of the stuff that we do. You're prepping for a game for one moment, one dunk. That's like a millisecond of something that goes on. So when people try to undercharge you for stuff, it's like no, there's prep work, there's
Yes.
all the stuff that goes into getting this stuff right. So I just hope people value the craft when they really think about the totality of what we have to do to get what we get. And just to kind of segue on that, I'm thinking about another shoot that stands out for me. So one of my favorite artists of all time is Khalees. Like, have loved her stuff since '99. Wrote papers about her in college. Like, it's
That's
wild.
awesome.
But I've always wanted to see her live, whether shooting it or just going to see her perform. And she tends to do a lot of shows overseas because I think she gets a lot more love over there than she does
Sure.
here, which I think is a travesty. But we could save that for another podcast. But thinking back to 2020, I saw she was performing in Europe, and I'm like, yo, I want to go to this festival. I haven't really traveled by myself a lot, but I'm like, I'm gonna go, and I'll see if I can get a credential. But if not, I'll just take the vacation and check her out.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know what happened in 2020, so they shut that show down. Wasn't able to go. 2021, she still wasn't back up and performing yet. 2022 comes, there's another festival in Europe that I want to go to. My passport had lapsed during the pandemic, so I'm like, all right, I got a little bit of time. I think it was about 6-7 weeks from the show. I'll expedite it, and I'll be able to go. My stupid self didn't put my old passport in the envelope when they sent it back, so it got delayed.
Jeez.
Got it back a week after the show.
Wow.
So I'm like, dang, I'll try to catch her another time. And then luckily, 2023, she's booked for another festival, one of the headliners in London. So it actually works out better. Probably easier country to go to. The other two weren't English speaking countries. Okay. So like easier trip. I always wanted to go to London too. So I had reached out to the organizers for the Cross the Tracks festival in UK. So I reached out to them in like December of 2022, knowing that this was going to happen in 23. So this is all set up maybe 6 months ahead. Like I get the approval, I'm prepping, I'm making sure my cameras are set, make sure the money is right. Like up until a week before, like I'm Uber Eats in trying to make sure I got like pocket change to go out there.
Yeah.
And it was like an 8-day solo vacation that, the concert was in the middle of it. I got there on a Wednesday. The festival and her performance wasn't until that Sunday. So I still had to like fill time and stuff.
Yeah.
So I ended up like reaching out to some modeling agencies out there, seeing if any of their new models needed to test. Ended up connecting with 2 models. Reached out to the folks at the Nikon Report YouTube channel. Shout out to them. So there's a Nikon only camera store in London, and a couple of the folks, Becky and Khan, that work there run their podcast. So I'm like, hey, could I come on? They suggested we do a vlog. So I land Wednesday night. That Thursday, I'm doing a shoot with one of the models that they're like overseeing, and we're doing a vlog, kind of testing out the Nikon Z8. I think I had the Z9 at the time, so I turned into this whole thing like less
That's
than
dope,
12
man.
hours from when I touched down. It was insane.
Yeah.
So we do that Friday. I shoot one of the other agency models. Shout out to BAME agency. I think they changed their name to Diversity Agency now, but their head guy Marcus was super awesome to work with. Set me up with some of their new models, and I got great stuff there. I think that Saturday I was just chilling. Went to a Chelsea women's game. Saw them win the WSL championship on the
That's
road,
dope, man.
and
That's a
then we get to the festival. Again, I didn't go to the other stuff. I don't really like big crowds, so I'm like, I'm going just for her and then maybe a few spots ahead of time, just to again test my gear, make sure I'm good. Um, so did that. 6 months of planning and prepping for literally 15 minutes, because if you shoot concerts, they give you 15 minutes, 3 songs, and then you got to move out of the pit.
yeah.
Um, and I got some great stuff there. And I just remember going out of the pit, going to the back of the crowd, and kind of just looking out and just taking a moment to take it all in. I was like, wow, like I really, got to see someone I really admired and got to do it, because of my camera. And it was sick to really think about.
That's super dope. One thing that I'll say from this conversation, everything that you just told me right now, and the previous conversation that we had, you are a hustler. You know who to reach out to, and like you said, the worst thing they could say is no. But
Mhm.
to put yourself out there for the opportunity for a yes brings you opportunities like this incredible trip that you went on, like you said, that your camera took you on this trip, which is incredible. That's super dope, man.
No, I appreciate it. And again, a lot of times it's just me knowing how to research, just being a tech head, you know, looking up looking at artists' social media. They usually sometimes have a contact to reach out to. So just sending the email, you know, doing some of the free concerts here and there for certain people that I did allowed me to say, hey, I've covered these people when I
Yes.
reach out to these big wigs. So it gives you a body of work. So I've always tried to be strategic on stuff, and just looking up other ways to find those contacts to reach out and just put it out there. So like I'm just grateful for being, having some ingenuity about being able to figure stuff out. And
Yeah.
listen, I still again have imposter syndrome with some of this stuff, and sometimes I'll hold on to an email because I'm like, are they really gonna answer? But for every time they say no, or maybe they don't respond, it'll be that one time you really want to get something, and it works out, and it turns into something like that Khalees trip.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, in doing a little research this time around, I noticed something really cool, something that I haven't seen from anybody else that I've spoken with, and really not any other photographers that I've spoken with or videographers. You have an NIL athlete. How did that come about?
Got you. Again, excuse me. Yeah, that was just some of that ingenuity. And again, that was a long learning process as well. So, shout out to first athlete that was able to sign with me, Talia Baptiste, freshman guard from FDU. Was able to just reach out and say, hey, let me sidetrack. I've always been one, whether it's with my models, friends, family, if you send me a referral, I'm willing to cut you some bread.
Sure,
Just
sure.
listen, we can't be everywhere at once. I can do all the marketing in the world. You got to have word of mouth to give you some help here and
Yes,
there. Um, so my thought process was always, hey, if you're willing to help send me some people, let's work it out. And I tried this once NIL first kicked off. I had a potential deal with another women's ball player along the Northeast. But the issue was at the time, while I still had my own business, I was still working in college sports. So the
Okay.
interpretation of the rule for that school, when I just said, "Hey, I'll just send this over just so it's above board, so everyone knows what's going on,"
Yeah, yeah.
they're like, "Hey, because you work and are an entity of another institution, we can't approve it because I guess technically they could say I could help swipe or interfere with an athlete."
Gotcha.
Although the person I was reaching out to was at a bigger school than I was at NJIT, so I didn't necessarily agree with the ruling, but it was like, all right, that's fine. But in this new space working with Talia, now that I'm not working in college sports and I still have my business, it was open season. I was able
Mm,
to figure that out with no issues. So, again, reached out to her. I figured if I was gonna do something with an athlete, let me find someone that's either homegrown from Jersey or at a Jersey school, even if they're away. So, even excuse me, either find someone from Jersey, hometown kid, or someone that's at a Jersey school, even if they're an out of state student, but they're still representing for the
gotcha.
area.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, was able to reach out to her. She was open to the idea. My whole deal with this being the first time I did it with an NIL situation when I had some ambassadors and kind of did it with non-athletes. Excuse me. So in setting it up with Talia as an NIL athlete, I kind of modeled it off of an ambassador setup that I did previously with some non-athletes, some people that weren't in school. It's pretty much the same setup again. For every person you send me that says, "Hey, John sent me or Talia sent me," you get a cut off of whatever I get. I try to keep my prices fair, but making sense for me. So
Absolutely.
all you got to do is tweet something here and there, or put something on your IG, and if it comes my way, then everyone's eating, and you don't have to do much. So my big thing
Excellent.
was, let's get together, let's do a shoot day, just so she could see formally how I work. So I got a video in the pipeline that I gotta put up of her just talking about our time working together and whatnot, and why she chose to work with me. Um, got that stuff. I got those photos in the car for too, but we just did the video first because I wanted that to launch. Trying to be like a little Nike, get my spec shoot on and whatnot.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Um, but again, I'm hopeful for what can come of it. I know she's busy right now. They're trying to win the NEC. But maybe in the off season we can pick some stuff up. But super grateful to work with her and just try to think outside the box to put money in my pocket and spread the wealth. And I have another athlete signed. We're still working on the launch, but shout out to Lisa Thompson from Rutgers, sophomore athlete on the women's basketball team there. We're just still working out her calendar to get all her stuff up, but she signed, and she's the other example, from out of state, but repping the home team, team that I obviously have,
You got
cared
ties
about
to.
since I was in school.
Yeah.
So that meant a lot. So hopefully maybe in an off season I can get with both of them and kind of ramp it up for next season and stuff moving forward. But it was just me trying to think outside the box like I always try to do.
That's awesome. And just judging by what you're saying in terms of the launch and trying to, make schedules work and all that, this is a relatively new development in the last 6 months or something like that for both of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And again, I'd been sitting on the idea for years though. It was just, you know, I wasn't able to fully execute it until I had some change in career stuff on the full time side
Yep.
that allowed me the freedom to pursue it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So again, I said you're a hustler. You are just ingenuity at all times. You're always thinking outside of the box, just trying to figure out how to make yourself better, make your business better. make some money, which is ultimately what everybody's trying to do at this point. With that
Just
has
call it
come.
ADHD. That's all it is. ADHD. That's all it is, bro.
I feel like we all got some ADHD in us. So, um,
Facts.
but with that, you've been honored with some awards. What is it? Diversified Photo, College Sports Communicators. Um, how long ago were those? And like, what did you? Was it? What am I trying to say? Was
They
it
didn't make a
just
mistake. That's what you're trying to say. They didn't make a mistake.
were those awards that you received, were they just from um a person or an organization recognizing your work? Did you have to like submit something? Like how did that come about? And does the recognition that you get from something like that, does it shape or motivate you in any type of way?
Those awards were all really awesome. And, I'll talk about one other award that I got from this company called Stock. They're based in Jersey. They're focused on stock photography and imagery of people of color. You don't
Oh, it's
always see
dope.
us shine in the best light when you're going around different sites and they have stock imagery. So that's their focus, to gather images of us, from us, to make us look better. But
Yeah.
with Diversified Photo, I applied to be, a full member of their collective back in 2020. I think that's when they first got on my radar, and they were trying to, fill that void of, hey, if you need talented creatives, in our space, we're putting that list together for people. So I applied for full membership in 2020. Didn't get the full side, but they added me to their up next list. So
Hmm.
still a little disappointing, but I'm like, all right, something to strive to, right? So I do that. 2 years later, I'm grinding, I'm getting better. I apply again, end up getting accepted for full membership. So, their collective, the great thing is like, hey, let's say you're in California, you're coming to Jersey, you need to find a photographer, you don't have anyone in your network. If you go to their site, you can search by state, by country. They have people
Oh, that's
overseas
awesome.
too.
Yeah.
um, you know, Major city, boom, you'll find me like under the Newark section. So I think I had known a creative friend of mine that was overseas in Paris one day. It was like, hey, I need to find a photographer. I sent them the list. Like, I don't know if they used it, but it's still a resource.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that was sick to have that recognition, to be able to go from one point, build on it, and then get to their upper echelon. So that was a proud moment for me. College sports communicators, that was, I think, the pinnacle of what I did in when I was working in college. I did receive the Rising Star Award from that organization in 2016 as someone that's like rising in the communication space in athletics. But in terms of just pure work, stuff that I've done, not potential or promise. So CSC, College Sports Communicators, in the 22-23 school year said, hey, we do all these contests for like best graphic design out of athletics departments, or best articles, best media guides.
Hmm.
They want to expand the contest to creatives, because a lot of departments are now employing photographers and videographers, or
Yes.
the comms people are doing more of that creative work. So they wanted to expand the contest offerings. So that year they did photographer. I think they did photo of the year and portfolio of the year for D1. I believe it was like D1 and like the rest of NCAA.
Okay.
So being at NJIT, I was able to get into the full D1 division and somehow got third in the entire nation.
That's
Um,
wild.
and it, it was, and like, the first place, BYU. Love them to death. They have a full squad and they're sick. Like the head guy that got it, I think he works with athletics, but he's also like a university photographer.
Gotcha.
Nathan. Like he was amazing. Like some of the stuff that they put up was wild, but it's him with like other full-time photographers. They have an army of interns, so they're able to like put crazy stuff together. But like their
Yeah,
work is amazing. And then second place for D1 was Montana State. I think it was their head sports information director or comms person there. Again, you have football, you have a little bit more support. So their stuff was great. I feel like they had more opportunities, especially football schools, like to get great
sure.
shots.
Yeah, yeah.
So to get third in the nation at a non-football school when it's really just me like thugging out with the Nikon Z6 that we had in the office. Sometimes I've used my own stuff, and just knowing the stuff that I shot, what I was getting at that year, like I was really in a groove, and I was gunning for that spot. Like I wanted to
The
win.
number one
When
spot,
BYU
yeah.
came, I'm like, yeah, I got it. Completely understand. But like that was something I was truly gunning for, to at least make the top three, and I did, and I was super proud of that. Grateful to give some publicity to NJIT when I was there, but that showed me, like, I could really make something of my photography. Before you get some stuff here and there, but like to have you submit it, you're judged by your peers, and they're like, "Yo, you're one of the top ones." Like that was a big moment for me.
Yeah,
And then just rewinding real quick, going back to Stock, when they first started ramping up in 2020 around the pandemic, they would do a lot of photo contests. So, open call, whether it's Black History Month, Black Fathers, Hispanic History Month, different things to obviously get people to submit their content.
sure.
But, they're giving out rewards as well. So they did a contest in 2020 for Hispanic History Month. And I'm like, hey, let me give it a shot. Have a lot of close family friends that are Hispanic. I had some friends that I knew that were able to help me out. So I'm like, excuse me. So I said, I feel like I could honor this and do it well. Let me give it a shot. So I had called my friend Gabby. Shout out to her, Gabby the artist. She's a singer, songwriter, and she's Puerto Rican. So I'm like, hey, do you have any fit that you could come over, bring to this shoot? I think I had a Puerto Rican flag, or she brought one, I forget. I'm like, let's put something together and figure it out. And the winning photos, I'll send them to you later. We did that in my crib. Like I had
Really?
a collapsible background, bright red. She had like a Puerto Rican theme dress or whatever, had the flag. And, again, we put together something that I was really proud of, and I submitted it. I wasn't sure if I would get it or get any recognition at the time, because
Yeah.
I think the contest they did right before Hispanic History Month was Black Fathers, and the guy that shot that one, like, it was an image of the dad holding the kid with a crown. It was like top lighting. I was like, this is sick, So
Yeah.
so I was like, we'll give it a shot. We'll see. But then I won, and I said in the interview that I did with them, for that was the first time I went from, hey, I'll try it, like ideation, to this worked and something won. So
Yeah.
that was like the first time out of all these examples
That's
where
dope, man.
I really put myself out there and something came out of it. So, it's pretty sick. It helps with the imposter syndrome. It still pops up every once in a while, but I've gotten a little bit better with trying it here and there, stuff that makes sense, that I want to give a shot. And, I've just been grateful to get a few wins here and there. I'm not
Yeah.
some crazy award winning person, but, I got some feathers in my belt, so I'm proud of them.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned imposter syndrome a few times. And I think as an artist, it's something that we struggle with all the time
Mm-hmm.
because there are such super talented people out there. You and social media almost by definition is everybody's highlights, right? So like you
Exactly.
get onto social media and you're like, damn, like how did they do that? Like, or like what was going through your mind when you composed this shot and used that shutter speed and that lighting? And
Right.
yeah, I mean it's tough because you compare it to your work and it's like, damn, like why doesn't my photo look like that? And I think again, I struggle with it too. Um, it's definitely one of those things where I feel like I'm kind of turning the corner where I'm like, hey, as long as I like it, then ultimately, because it's an art form, right? So as
Hmm.
long as I like it and I know that I did everything genuinely, depending on what I'm shooting, like coming from a place of love, like if the next person doesn't like it, it is what it is. I
Right.
captured it. I captured this moment, and that's kind of been my shift. But still, you can't help but to fall back and be like, "Damn, why isn't my
Right.
shot like that?"
I hear you. I hear you, man. Listen, I think for me, the ways that I get around doubting myself is trying to either A, pour into other folks, or B, go back and see some of my stuff and really be like, yo, like I
Yes,
got it. You know,
yes,
you got to snap yourself out of it and just remind yourself that like
who you
you do
are.
have talent and you do have good stuff. Um, for example, again, was dealing with it recently, and I was going through my archives, like backing up my stuff, and I was looking at some shots that I had from my DC time, probably like 2013, 2014. I was shooting with this one rapper, musician, Pinky Killer Corn. Shout out to her. Ill rapper from out of DC. So one of the first people that shot with me when I was still trying to figure out what I was doing.
Yep.
Um, I think at the time when I was down there, I either had like a Nikon D5300, like a super starter camera, or I still had my P7700, which was a point and shoot with manual control.
Okay.
So had that. I think I had maybe one busted little flash, like a speed light, and some lamps. I didn't even have strobes then, not even
Yeah.
plugged up ones. I just had some target lamps, and I'm just
Yep.
angling, trying
Yes.
to
Yeah.
get to something. So I got this one shot of her like centered is like a headshot, and she just kind of like posed up, super centered, dope. And I remember I re-edited, so I'm looking at the original edit, and the one I did maybe a few years later. I'm like, yo, this is sick, and I was still again, my eye was there, even if I didn't know exactly what I was doing with, the technical side of it, my apertures, my ISOs, the
Yep.
lighting, blah, blah, blah. Like, I still had an idea for what I was doing, and it came up. So I'm like, if that's the worst that I could have been, and now like I know how to plan out a shoot and figure stuff out and adjust on the fly, those are the moments that bring me back. But like you said, the you see the algorithm, you see folks that maybe are in spaces that you're like, I could succeed there. I could do that. Their stuff
Yeah.
is good. You
For
don't want
sure.
to denigrate another creative because you don't want that energy coming back to you. But you're like, I could be helping them at minimum,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
deserve to be in that space. So I think just thinking back to the wins that you have had kind of centers you and balances you out so you're not like getting too high or too low. And again, just pouring into other folks. When I get a chance to work with young folks or photographers that may ask me questions, like that helps me feel better about myself. And I'm trying to practice how to be more of a teacher because like I can take in information really well. Lethal shooter. I understand it now. Like I figured it out.
Yeah.
Um, but as you get older, like the best way to learn is to be able to regurgitate what you know in your head. So I'm trying to get better at that when I come across other photographers and they ask me, what camera should I use or what were your settings here or what should I do? little things like that help me feel better when I'm pouring back into folks like people poured into me. One thing that I'll do now as a way of teaching in a little way is through my website. So I'm redoing it now, but on some of my photos, if you go there now, you'll see my settings underneath, like as a caption.
Mm,
So you'll see what camera I was using, what aperture, ISO, shutter. And for me, when I would look at other people's photos, I could kind of gauge, hey, what were they going for by looking at that? So that's
sure.
my way of paying it forward. And I remember I first kind of started doing that, trying to figure out like headshots, for instance. So I remember I had to do some headshots for some political figures, and I went back and looked at who's the best headshots of political figures, presidents, people in Washington. So
Yeah,
I'm looking at Obama's official portrait, Joe Biden's, Kamala Harris, AOC, all these other politicians, and they have to have the top of the line image. So I'll get their official photo from online, look up the metadata, and you could see their settings. So maybe they're at like F8, which means they want to make sure everything is sharp. Cool.
yes.
Their shutter is 1/200, so they're probably not hand holding it. They probably have a tripod, and then that's probably max strobe for what they're doing. So all right, you got to have a tripod. You can slow it down because they're not moving like that.
Yeah.
And then you see where their ISO is, so you could at least, obviously you can't copy the settings specifically, but it helps you get close
You
and it
get an
helps you
idea.
understand
Yeah.
what they're trying to do. So I send that type of information back on my site with my photos. So if someone comes and looks at, my picture of Khalees from London, I don't remember what the settings were at the time, but I was probably at 2.8. So you're isolating, you're shooting as bright as you can in those crazy lighting environments.
Yeah.
My shutter is probably somewhere around 500. ISO, maybe in the 32 to 4,000 range. So if you're in a similar situation, you can maybe have some starting points and bounce from there. So again, me trying to learn how to teach more, share more of the knowledge that I've gained from all the different places and people and websites and YouTubes. That helps me to get out of the funk where I'm like, maybe not feeling myself, but when people are appreciating my work and saying, "Hey, would you be willing to look at my work, or give me some advice on how to take care of this?" It again, it recenters me to say, "Hey, you must be doing something right."
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm looking at your hoodie, and I believe I've been seeing that on your social media as well. The shot's not going to take itself.
Facts.
I also saw that you have a hashtag focus on what matters.
Yeah.
Um, what do those two phrases mean to you, and how are you implementing them into your photography and maybe even into your life?
Listen, we focus on what matters goes back to the beginning of the conversation. When technically when you're shooting, a portrait or an athlete or a concert, what matters is in that moment, what's in your frame. The outside noise is irrelevant, and it only matters if you aim towards it or if you put focus on that. So
Yes.
for me, you know, being a former rapper, it's a play on words, but it truly makes sense. Like when you're in your life with your friends, with your family, significant others, whatever, you put in the energy where it matters most. Things tend to work out how
Yes.
you want them to. Like if you're there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can stress about, and especially nowadays. But
Yes.
again, if your heart's in the right place, if you're working towards the right things, if you're putting energy into the right people and allowing them to put energy into you, um, that's what matters. That's what really makes things worthwhile. So, you know, that's kind of like a mantra for me in life when I try to hold up to it, and especially with my work. And then the hoodie, send you the link. You gotta get one, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But shot's not going to take itself. It kind of goes back to, always take the shot. Like, listen, and I incorporated it into the video I did with Talia for the NIL launch.
Yeah.
Shot's not going to take itself. I might as well do it. If you want to get a great image or be in this space where you're shooting a certain event or shooting with certain people, like I gotta do it. No one's gonna walk up to you and say, hey, here is a prime photo assignment if you don't, go out there and try to do the work and put yourself in position to get it done. So, thinking of cool things to put on shirts and make some merch, that just kind of stuck with me because again, it's another, phrase that lines up with my journey. So,
I
I like
love
this
that.
one, kind of hand drew it when I had my iPad, made it work. I got some other stuff that I need to put out there, but this is one of the cooler ones. Shout out to Bonfire. This thing is comfortable as hell too. I'll tell you that.
I'll definitely need to grab one. I love that. I love that a lot. And yeah, I mean, like you said, former rappers play on words, but it hits. Like it
hmm
really does nail both of them, both of your mantras. They nail um, what you should be doing or what we're trying to do in photography, as well as just day to day.
Exactly.
Um, So if we use the camera and photography as like a vessel,
hmm
um, should we in 2025, should we, the collective photography community, um, should we be trying to achieve something that like transcends the the art? And what I mean by that is, do we simply go out there, we grab our camera, we go out and we just capture the moment, or should there be an intention geared towards elevating the art or elevating the people who are viewing our
Yes.
art?
uh, no, in all seriousness, listen, I think it always should be a little bit of both. Um, I think to where I sit in 2025 with with my art form and my business and how I do stuff, like I want to create stuff that evokes emotion, but I also want to do a good job so I can keep moving the business forward.
Sure.
So I think if you keep like the mantras in mind, especially like a focus on what matters, um, when you're doing your work, you're gonna hit both of those pillars naturally. Again, if you're doing good work that is evoking emotion, that is capturing excellent moments, that's technically sound, um, you're being professional when you're out and about. Um, you're sharing stuff that's genuine. I think we've
Yes.
seen a shift in people when you're dealing with the algorithm and being on social media, like being authentic. You don't want to have stuff that's too cheesy, but you do what's true to you. You do stuff that captures people's emotions and their eye, and then I think either one of those tasks is going to take care of itself as long as you kind of stay true to what you want to do. I think in this day and age with everything going on in the world, capture what you feel like you need to capture. And this is a prime moment to get stuff um, in, that will need to be seen down the road. I
Yes.
I will say in the midst of all the chaos, like in 2020 with the protests and whatnot, I have a lot of respect for the photographers that got some amazing stuff out there. Um, being able to capture those moments, put your body, put your gear on the line, and document history, like that's another level of of our art form, and I give a lot of respect to those cats. And I think we're kind of in a moment when a lot of people are going to be doing the same thing, whether it's in Washington, across the country, across the world. But again, whether you're shooting your kid's little league game or you know, a presidential assignment, as long as you're getting stuff that matters, that looks good, that shows your talent, you know, and that you're happy with, like you said, you know, that needs it. That needs to be the core, and then you do the things that put yourself in position to take care of everything else. But um, you stay true to you and just keep shooting.
I love it. I love it. With that, I'm going to leave you just with one last question. And I think this is going to kind of be a theme throughout the year. Um, so, as you're aware from our conversation previously, um, the intent of Behind the Lens, the podcast, the Instagram page, is just to highlight photographers and
Right.
videographers, creators, graphic designers, etc. Um, I think to a certain degree, a lot of a lot of us, we're not necessarily looking for the flowers and the accolades or anything like that. Again,
Mm-hmm.
kind of alluding to what you're saying, like we're artists, so we're here, we're capturing what we want to capture in a way that we um in a way that we envision it. We're capturing it through our eyes, right?
Right.
But it is nice to have somebody be like, hey, like you did a great job, this is great work, I love what you did, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. um all that said, what's a misconception from somebody who is not a photographer? You're talking to somebody who's not a photographer, has never picked up a camera in their life. What's a
Right.
misconception that you would like to clear up for them, in terms of what we do, what you do, and ultimately how we get to the result of your final product, your art?
Got you. All right. I think I cut out, right?
Yes.
All right. Perfect
But
segue. Then I'll
yeah, that'll be
just jump.
perfect. Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. And I wanted to look up something real quick anyway.
Yeah.
So let me jump back in. All right. I'm back, right?
Yep.
All right. So question was misconception, right?
Yeah.
Got you. All right. So one misconception that I hope we can clear up is when people say, "Oh, your camera takes nice photos." If I walk away from that camera, no one's taking a photo. That thing's
Yes.
gonna sit there and stay still, unless I put it on auto mode to take pictures. But then I still
Yeah.
had to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, the camera is a tool that we use to create the images, but getting it composed right, set up right, that's still on the skill of the photographer to make sure everything looks how we want it to in our creative vision. If if it was as easy as people think it was, then they wouldn't need us. But
Yes.
last time I checked, you're not really seeing people shoot weddings on the iPhone.
This is true. This is
Legitimately.
true.
Uh,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So I would hope that people would see like the planning, the execution, the problem solving, the flexibility that we all show in this art form, to get these images that we hope essentially stand the test of time.
Yes. Yes. I love it. You're preaching. We'll end it on that. Um, Lamar, thank you for your time. It's a long time coming for us to finally circle back around. And I mean, in the last couple of years, you've grown a lot. You've done a lot. So, um, while I still have that episode in the archives, I'm so
Y'all
thankful
get,
that we.
y'all get. This
I'm
is so much
so
better.
I'm so thankful that we got the time to sit down and talk. Um, Before we get out of here, is there anything we should be on the lookout from you?
Got you. Hey, listen again. I want to say thank you for creating this platform, man.
Absolutely.
Um, super grateful for you and the kind words on my work, man. Again, it just shows that At least I'm doing something right. Someone sees it.
You are. You
Um,
are.
and in terms of what to look out for me, just follow the social medias, trying to get stuff up. My best work on Instagram at shot by SBD for Survivor by Design. Website's gonna be doing an overhaul in a little bit. Shotbysbd.com. Hoping to by the end of the year get a couple photo books out. Was
Be dope.
inspired by what I seen Jared Poland do, and wanted to commemorate the 5 years of the biz. So I'm looking to do one of my best work from like 19 to 24,
Okay.
and shout out to one of the models that I've worked with the most in my career, Monica Hime. When you go to my site, she's the lead photo on the landing page. So, wanted to put something out to share some of our best work. So, when I get a chance to sit down and really lock myself to the computer, I'll put those out and give it a shot. Again, hopefully, someone somewhere will look at it and appreciate the work, and you know, throw
They
a couple of
will.
dollars that way and lock it in. So wanted to give that a shot as well. And, we'll see what else comes about. But again, appreciate you creating this platform, man. I know you said, we don't do it for the flowers, which is true, but, it's always nice to see that someone appreciates what you're doing. And I think back to lyric real quick. Again, we're rappers, so I think back to something Joe Budden said when he was with Slaughterhouse. Song is "Get Up." He said, "If you stay grounded, gotta keep giving you reasons not to be." So, if you stay low, you do the work. Gotta bless you with reasons to maybe blow your head up, but again, you stay grounded. People will appreciate what you do. So, you know, that's what I'm just trying to do. I'm grateful for you for doing the same thing and lifting other people
Thank
up,
you.
and hopefully that comes back to you, man, for sure.
I appreciate you. We're gonna leave it right with that. Lamar, thank you so much. We will absolutely be in touch. And until next time, we got a link. We got a link. We got to get. I got to get down to Jersey,
Please,
New York, something. Let's do something soon.
please do, man.
Stay warm first and foremost. We're almost through the winter, but
Fingers crossed.
yes, yes. But we will be in touch. Thank you so much again.
Yes, sir. Take
Have a
care,
good
man.
one.